Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. Welcome back to Swaroop IT Learning Solutions. Now, in this particular video series, we will continue to learn installing, configuring, and managing VMware Hypervisor version 8.0 infrastructure. So, from this particular video, I will be starting a new module series for VMware vSphere 8.x backup and disaster recovery. Now this backup and disaster recovery, it's a big module, so I have segregated it in 4 parts. So basically the first part or the first module 1 is for installing and configuring VEEAM Backup Manager Server version 12.3.x on Windows 2022 DC system. That will be our chapter 1. In module 2 or chapter 2, we will be backing up our VMware vSphere vCenter server via VEEAM Backup Manager through VM level backup. In the chapter 3 or module 3, we will be restoring our VMware vSphere vCenter via VEEAM Backup Manager through instant recovery option or VEEAM level backup. And in the chapter 4, we will be restoring our VMware vSphere vCenter server through VEEAM Backup Manager through full VM backup recovery mode. Okay, so there are two types of recoveries you can do through VIM Backup Manager. One is your instant recovery and one is your full VM recovery. Okay, so both options we will see. Okay, after these 4 modules, I will be adding some more modules like how to take the backup of ESX host also and how to recover that, but that will be in a later part. So as of now, this will be the first video for the module 1. Okay, so as I said, so we will practically execute following steps in this particular part 13 module 1 video. So what is module 1? So installing and configuring VIM Backup Manager version 12.3.x on Windows 2022 DC system. Okay, in a production network, you should install your VIM Backup Manager on a dedicated machine which is running on a server OS, but for our lab purpose I am using my existing Windows 2022 DC system. Okay, so let's start. So the first step towards this particular module or this particular chapter, we need to map our VIM backup and replication product ISO version 12.3.1.1139 on our Windows 2022 DC system. So I am coming back to my desktop. I am going to the workstation console, and here on DC system I will be right clicking it, clicking on settings, and I'm clicking on CD DVD drive, and then going back to my ISO path. You can see VIM backup and replication 12.3.1.1139. Okay, this ISO, I will double click on it and I will choose both options, connected and connect at power on. Connected means as of now the machine is live, Windows 2022 DC is on, and it will directly map on a live mode. Okay, and I will say okay. Now I will take a RDP for our DC system. Now RDP has been taken. Now let's move on to the next step. So next step is through Windows 2022 Explorer, browse your CD-ROM and launch the Vim backup and replication setup. So I will come back here, close this, open your Windows Explorer, and here it is, our ISO is mapped. I will click on it and I will start the setup.exe. Let's move on to the next step. So next step is, once your VM backup and replication manager setup has been launched, click on install. So click on install over here. It will take some time to launch. By the time we will move on to the next step. So next step is, we need to choose the option install Vim backup and replication. Okay, so let that option come. Now you can see there are three options: install Vim backup and replication, install Vim backup enterprise manager, and install Vim backup and replication console. So we need to choose the first one, install Vim backup and replication. Okay, so I have just checked that option. It will go forward. By the time we will be moving on to the next steps. Currently it is initializing the setup wizard. Okay, in the next step we need to accept the license agreement. It is taking some time to load. Okay, so license agreement page has came, so I will click on I accept. Let's move on to the next step. So next step is, we need to choose our licensing mode. So we will go for the free edition or the community edition as of now. So I will not change anything over here. I will say next. By the time it is loading, let's move on to the next step. So next step is, it will check our system for the configuration, whether all the parameters or the prerequisites are matching or not. So this system configuration check will take some time, and after that it will move on to the next step. Alright, so it has passed all the prerequisite and it has moved on to the next step. Let's go back to our PPT for the next step action. So next step is, click on install on ready to install page. So before clicking on install, let's verify what all the installation parameters it is showing. So installation folder is default one, C program files, Vim backup and replication, V power cache folder. It has automatically taken our secondary drive, D program data, Vim backup R cache, guest catalog folder, then service account will be local system, database engine, database server, Windows 2022 DC local system 5432, and it is actually in the database engine, it is actually installing our SQL Express automatically. If you are having a dedicated SQL server, you can use that also. Then database name will be Vim backup, and now these ports are important: catalog service port 9393, service port 9392, secure connection port 9401, REST API service port 9419, and check the products updates automatically. Now in the production network, you should be absolutely sure that these ports are open from your network level. Okay, otherwise it may find some issues with your functionalities. Okay, so finally we are here to install the Vim Backup Manager and Replication Server. So I will click on install and it will start installing your Vim Backup and Replication. So currently it is on step 1 of 8. Okay, so we need to monitor this Vim Backup and Replication installation process. Now it will take some 10 to 15 minutes to complete, so I am pausing this video as of now. Once this installation is getting completed, I will come back to you with the next step. Alright, so our Vim Backup and Replication 12.3 server installation has been successfully completed. So let's go back to our PPT. So click on finish to complete the Vim Backup and Replication installation process and restart your Windows 2022 DC system once. So I'll click on finish over here and I will restart this machine, although it is not asking, but it is always advisable if you are making any major change or any major installation to restart your system once. Okay, so it will take 1 or 2 minutes, so I will come back to you with the next step once this machine is restarted. Alright, so our Windows 2022 DC must have been restarted now. Let's log on with the RDP session. Okay, and after restart you can see the Vim Backup and Replication console is already installed. Okay, let's move on to our next step. So next step is through Windows 2022 DC system, open Vim Backup and Replication console. So coming back to DC system, opening this. Now here we need to change a couple of options and then we need to click connect. So what are the options? You can see over here it is taking localhost by default, so we have to change it to our system host name, which is Win 2022 DC. This is ESX Lab, ESX admin, and the current Windows session authentication. This is correct. Okay, so that's why it is dehighlighted. If I'm deselecting it, you can put the manual password over here if the password is changed or something like that, but as of now no need. I will click on this one, use Windows session authentication option. So what are those options? So backup server name will be our host name, Win 2022 DC. Port will be a default port 9392. Username will be ESX Lab, ESX admin. ESX Lab is our domain name, and select use Windows session authentication option. So all those options we have selected. Now I will click on connect. So now you can see over here our console has been loaded. Okay, so this is a basic console. Now we will configure our Vim Backup server for the next steps. So as of now, this is the first time what we have launched our Vim Backup and replication console. So let's move on to the next step. Alright, so we have opened our Vim backup and replication console one more time. Now let's move on to the next step. Now we need to configure our Vim backup and replication server in order to make it ready for taking backup of our vSphere infrastructure. Okay, what it consists: taking backup of your vCenter server, taking backup of your ESX host, and taking backup of your virtual machines also. Okay, so let's move on to the next step. So next step is through Vim backup and replication console inventory, click on add server and select virtualization platforms. So here you can see over here there is an option called inventory. Under inventory there is an option called virtual infrastructure, because we are taking backup of our virtual infrastructure, not the physical infrastructure. So virtual infrastructure, and there is an option called add server. Okay, so I'll click on add server, and here we need to choose the option as virtual platforms over here. Okay, sometimes this option coming, sometimes it is not. Okay, so that's fine. What I will do is I will go back to the same option again. Let's see whether it is showing. Under backup infrastructure, click on add server, and here under add server there is an option called virtual platform. So either way these options are visible, so I will choose virtual platforms over here. Next is we need to select the VMware vSphere. Now there are different virtualization platforms Vim backup is supporting. So VMware vSphere, Microsoft Hyper-V, then Nutanix HV, Promotex V, Red Hat virtualization, Oracle Linux virtualization manager. As of now we are taking backup for VMware vSphere, so I will choose VMware vSphere. Okay, after that we need to select vSphere one more time. So VMware vSphere also having two sub virtualization components, so I will choose vSphere, which is an on-premise infrastructure. Okay, so next step is we need to add our first server now. So through add server wizard, name is equal to esx host 01.esxlab.local. So we are adding our first esx host. So you can give the fqdn also, DNS name, or the IP address also. So as of now we are using our ESX host 01's FQDN. So I'm just entering that FQDN now. Okay, so our ESX host 01.esxlab.local. Okay, and here description is an optional, so I will leave as it is. You can change if you want to. I will say next. So as I said, description optional. You can put the same description or you can put anything whatever you want. So as of now I have just leave it as default. Next we have already clicked. Now next step is we need to give the credentials for our ESX host 01 in order to get it added into our Vim backup and replication console. So I will come back here, and there is no crash credentials as such as of now, because this is the first time we are adding the server. So I will say add. So in the username I will put root password, our root password for our ESX host 01. Okay, I will say OK. Now while adding this server, make sure that your server is online, because it is getting added through your online credentials and network connectivity. Okay, and now we need to click on apply. So once I'm hitting the apply, it is asking us for the certificate security alert. So click continue on certificate security alert. So I will say continue over here, and now it will automatically start adding our ESX host 01. Okay, so as I said, once ESX host 01 addition process completes, click next. So VMware server saved successfully. This is completed. I will say next. So next is verify the ESX host 01 addition summary and click finish. So the summary is that our ESX host 01 was added successfully, and then host info also, it has detected that it is running on VMware ESXi 8.0.3 build 2467464, and then connection options, user root, and the port for communication is 443. So I will say finish over here. Okay, so now under manage servers, under standalone hosts, you can see over here this particular host has been added. Okay, ESX host 01. Let's move on to the next step. So next step is verify that ESX host 01 servers VMs list also showing in our inventory. Okay, so what I will do is I will double click on it. Not here, this is the backup infrastructure. Under inventory, I will click on that ESX host 01. And you can see under the ESX host 01, our couple of VMs also it is showing. Okay, so it is showing the correct inventory over here. Let's move on to the next step. So next step is repeat the steps for adding following servers. Okay, so ESX host 02. Now I will go one more time on the standalone host. I will say right click, add server. Here I will give the ESX host 02's IP address or FQDN. Next, now here I can use the existing credentials also, since the credentials are same for ESX host 01 and 02, or you can add the new one also by clicking add, but as of now I'm using the existing one since we have already added it for ESX host 01 also. So I will say apply, then security warning, continue. Now you can see the VMware server saved successfully. Okay, so I will say next, I will say finish, and now you can see under inventory ESX host 02 is there. Now one thing you must have noticed that both our VMware vCenter server and Windows 11 CL are currently running, that is online, because this green arrow is there, and both are hosted by ESX host 01. Why it is like that? Because it must have been done that Windows 11 CL was running and ESX host 02 was not up for some XYZ reason. So that's why both the VMs are currently hosted by ESXi01. So what I will do is I will come back here, minimize this, go back to our browser, go back to ESX host login. This is just an additional activity I'm just doing. This is not included in our PPT because I want to switch Windows 11 VM to ESX02. So I will click on home and I will click on virtual center. So you can see Windows 11 CL is currently hosted by ESX host 01. So what I will do is right click, and you can see over here that through our individual ESX host management console, there is no option for migrate this particular VM to back to our ESX host 02. Okay, so no problem. What we will do is I will log off from here. I will open a fresh session for vCenter server. I will log in with my SSO credentials. Now I will click on ESX host 01. This is vCenter servers management console. And now you can see both the VMs are there. Now I will click on Windows 11 CL and I will say migrate. Then change the compute resource only. Next. And I will choose the ESX host 02. Next. I will say next. Schedule vMotion with high priority. Next. And I will say finish. Okay, it will just take 1 minute or so to move this live VM back to its original. You can see it has been disappeared back to its original ESX02. Now it has been hosted by its correct host. Okay, since it's power on, right? So this is just an additional activity. We have already done this in the past video series, so you can see how to enable that live vMotion functionality and migration. Okay, so now I will log out from here, close this, and come back to our Vim backup console, and I will refresh this page, and now you can see ESX01 Windows 11 CL is been disappeared, and now it is hosted by its correct host. Okay, this is just an additional activity what we have performed. Okay, now back to our PPT. So we have added our ESX host 02 also. Now next thing is we need to add our vCenter server also. Okay, so there are three management servers we are currently managing: ESX01, 02, both are added. Now vCenter server, which is itself is a VM hosted by ESX01. Okay, but that vCenter server VM also we need to add to our Vim backup server. Okay, so what I will do is I will come back here and I will click on VMware vSphere, right click, add server. Now I will give the vCenter servers IP or FQDN. Now let's see, FQDN is correct. Now here one important note over here is while adding vCenter server we need to use SSO, administrator at vSphere dot local credentials and not the root account credentials. So I will come back here, I will say add, and I will add the administrator credentials. Now you can see administrator at vSphere.local and password. I will say OK and I will say apply. Again certificate security alert, continue, and it will start adding my vCenter server also. So you can see VMware server saved successfully. I will say next and verify the summary. I will say finish. And now you can see we have added all three servers. Okay, vCenter server also we have added, and under vCenter server you can see both the VMs are also showing inside the inventory, and standalone host we have added ESX01 also and ESX02 also. So total we have added 3 servers. Okay, vCenter server, ESX01 and ESX02. Okay, let's move on to the next step. Now we need to create one new backup repository for taking backup of our vSphere servers. Okay, so through Vim backup and replication console, backup infrastructure, backup repositories, add repository, and select direct attach storage. Okay, so I'll come back to my main console. I will click on backup infrastructure. There is an option called backup repositories. Okay, so default backup repository, while we have installed our Vim backup server, it has already created deep backup. So but we don't want to use this, so I will add a new backup repository over here. Okay, so I will click on add repository, and the option we need to choose is direct attach storage. What are the other options? If you are having a SAN, if you are having a deduplicating storage, or if you are having object storage, or if you are having Vim data cloud vault, that means cloud storage, which you may have purchased from the Vim, all the options are available. As of now I am choosing the local storage option, that is direct attached storage. I will click on this. Now next is after direct data storage, within that we are having multiple options, so select Microsoft Windows. So here there are 3 options available. Either you can choose Microsoft Windows storage, local storage, Linux storage, or Linux hardened repository. So I will choose Microsoft Windows. Now next is provide appropriate name for the new backup repository and click next. So I will just give a proper name. Okay, this is a generic name, you can give any name as per your wish, and I will say next. Next is we need to choose our repository server name and click next. So here our repository server is our local server only, Windows 2022 DC, so I will not change anything. In a production setup you may have multiple repository servers, so you can choose from the list. As of now we are only having one, so I am not changing anything. I will say next. So next is on repository option, click browse. So path to the folder means we need to give a local folder path over here. I will click on browse. I will expand this. I will go to the D drive under backup folder. Now under D drive, backup folder has been created by Vim software itself, but we need to create one more folder under that backup folder. So through browse window, create a backup repository folder structure as follows. So D drive backup VMware vSphere infra. So you can give any name as per your wish. I'm just creating a new folder. Alright, so I'm just giving this folder a particular name. And now I will just say OK over here. Now let's move on to the next step. This we have already done. So next step is back to the repository option. Select repository path as D backup VMware vSphere infra. Okay, so this has already been selected. Next is keep concurrent task number as per your choice and click next. So concurrent task means the backup jobs. How many backup jobs we can run concurrently or simultaneously. So default value it is 4, so let's not change it, and I will say next. And now click yes on warning prompt. So this is just a general warning for file system, so we will continue. Say next. So on mount server option, keep all default values intact and click next. So we don't need to change anything over here for the mount server. That means while doing the backup job, it is using this particular folder for caching your disk images or data backup. So we don't need to change anything. I will say next over here. And now finally on the review option, we need to click apply. So it will configure our new repository. As you can see over here, it is registering the client for package and doing various tasks. And finally you can see backup repository has been saved successfully. So next is once new backup repository process completes, click next. I'll say next and review the summary and click finish. So this is the summary what we have just created a new backup folder repository over here. Finish. It will ask that whether you want to change the configuration backup location to the newly created repository, right? So click yes to change the configuration backup location to new repository path. So I will say yes over here. Okay, so by default the default backup repository is the path, but we have changed to our new repository, which is dbackup VMware vSphere. Okay, so we have created one new repository over here. Okay, so this completes our first chapter for VMware vSphere backup and disaster recovery. In the next chapter we will be actually taking a backup of our vCenter server. So thank you all for your time for watching this particular video. This is your host signing off from Swaroop IT Solutions. Please like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you once again. Have a good day.